Hello everyone, Rob here with precodecamp.com, and in this video we're going to take you a little bit behind the scenes of our classroom. We are on the topic here of named CSS colors, and we created this real simple grid-like structure to kind of help with the students understanding that they can use these named colors for CSS. But I thought it would be a great video for us to show you how we came up with this from this. Right? So that's what we're going to discuss. Again, we're going to provide you with all the starter code that you would need at the link down below in the video. So go ahead and you can click on that and go ahead and start coding along with this video. Like I said, it's just going to be a few CSS things in order to go from that to what you just saw earlier. So let's go ahead, dive in the code, and let's see what we need to do. All right, so let's take a look at some of the starter code that's inside of our HTML file that you guys are going to see and view here. And things that I would love for me to point out to you guys is that our entire system here is wrapped in this one class here called color grid. So as you can see here, it just wrapped up that entire system, and that's what we're going to apply our display grid to inside the CSS. The other thing that we're going to note on here is we have a class here called color box, and that way we can just style all the boxes, and this is where that it comes from when we need to center the text or apply some sort of shadowing and rounded corners and things of that nature. So that's what we're going to use for that. And then as you can see here, we just did inline styling for each one of the colors, and we actually did the named colors, right? So any color that you can think of, feel free to put in here, but also I would be interested to know what are some unique colors that you have found that are named. Go ahead and put that in the comments down below. All right, let's go ahead and get started with the styling aspect of this. To zoom in just a little bit on the code here, I'm going to pull up a display that gives me both of the HTML as well as codes. That way we can kind of see what does what as we're coding along with this. So first thing that I need to do is I need to go ahead and reference the color grid. Inside here, I need to change this to a display grid. And then I need to apply some grid template columns to this, because just because I did a display grid, it really doesn't do anything to the web page. We need to define these columns here. And so with this code here that you see on the screen, if I go ahead and save this, notice that we now are seeing this nice grid layout. Now to explain what the grid template columns are doing, we have this repeat here, which means that we want to autofill. The autofill keyword just essentially allows the grid to automatically create as many columns as it needs in order to fit inside of its container. And as far as the min-max, we're saying that, hey, the space that we need to have on here at a minimum is going to be 150 pixels. So that's really what our grid template columns are doing right here. Now to make this a little more prettier when it comes to this grid, we can apply a few other attributes here. So we want to make sure that the gap is going to be 10 pixels. And I'm going to go ahead and save that. Notice that we get this nice little spacing on there now, where we didn't have that before. And we're also going to add a few more items here. We want the padding to be 10 pixels as well. And then we want to follow this up with making sure that this grid takes up the full container width that we are going to give it. And so we want the width to be 100%. And then as far as the maximum width that we want to allow this to grow, because it does grow all the way, we can give it a max width here of 800 pixels. And that will allow it to just stay within the 800 pixel containment field. Perfect. Our grid is looking really good right now. Matter of fact, I could probably sell this for maybe $2 back in the 90s, right? But we want to spice this up just a little bit more, and that's why we had that class that we created earlier called the color box, and that's where we're going to get the height, the width, and the display of the text. And so we're going to apply a few tips and tricks to it, and then you're just going to be able to see this thing grow from there. So with that being said, let's go ahead and attack the color box class. And so with the color box class, we need to apply a width of 150 pixels, and then we want a height of 100 pixels. All right, so once we save that, we now get our boxes, right? Where they're starting to show up. Now we need to get that text to be centered in that box. And one of the easiest ways to center text, which that's one of the number one questions that people ask, is how do you center text in a div? Well, let's go ahead and utilize Flexbox to help us out with that. And so we're going to do the following. We want the display to be flex. And then we want to have the just center. We want that to be center. And then we want the align items to be center as well. And so these are the two things that make this text to be centered inside of the div. So I went ahead and saved that, and you can automatically see those settings have been applied. So things, again, it's all about just making it look a little bit better, and we're all going to just deal with the color box class. So let me go ahead and dive into it. Once we have that, we're going to make the color of this white. So the color of the text to be white. And then we need to have the font weight of this. We want this to be bold. I'm going to go ahead and save that. And now you can see all of the text is white, and it has a little stronger feel as far as the styling goes of it. Rounded corners of the color boxes. Let's go ahead and make that 8 pixels. So I'm going to go back to here, and I'm just going to make a real simple border radius, and we're going to make that 8 pixels. All right, I'm going to go ahead and scroll up just a little bit here. We're almost done with this. Now it's just a few simple styling effects for adding a few shadows. Okay, and so we have, whenever we're defining shadows, we have horizontal offset, vertical offset, and the blur radius. And so for the text shadow, let's go ahead and apply that real quick. We're going to go with 1 pixel in the horizontal, 1 pixel in the vertical, and then we have the blur radius here of 2 pixels. And then we, as far as the color goes, the 000 here makes it black, and then the 0.5 means that's 50% opaque. So we did that. Go ahead and save that, and you can kind of see now the words are sticking out more due to that shadow. And then of course we can finally add a shadow to the actual color box itself with the same sort of principles. So I'm going to go ahead and add that here, and same concept. Horizontal offset is going to be 0, the vertical offset is going to be 2 pixels, and then we have a 4 pixel spread with the blur radius. Follow that up with just a 10% opacity for it. Right. So that cleared us all up with making the grid squares. So by now, hopefully you understood that part on how we created it. And then the last final touches here are going to be to the body itself. And so I'm going to go ahead and scroll up here, and let's just apply a few things to the body. And again, this has nothing to do with the grid system whatsoever. It just happens to deal with, hey, how do we get things all lined up and looking nice? And so I'm just going to clean a few things up here. With that being said, the first thing is going to be, we'll do a margin here inside the body. We'll set that to 0. We're going to put a display flex on this, so that way it will look a little weird, but we're going to fix that with the flex direction to be column. So once we do that, now it looks like we really didn't change anything, but the reason that I wanted to do this is because I wanted to center everything as well on the page itself. So now we have the text to be centered. Now we have all of those columns of the grid colors. Now they are centered as well. And again, the background color that we're going to apply to this was simply the light gray. So hopefully you enjoyed this little lesson here, a little behind the scenes on how we create some of the material that's inside of our classroom. And this happens to be from the topic that we were covering in class, talking about CSS colors and it being named. And it was a real great way to demonstrate, hey, these are the colors that are associated with standardized CSS. All right. Well, thanks for watching the video, everybody, and I hope you like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Take care.